could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your nonprofit origin story?
For sure. Thank you for asking. I'm Shahbaz Mamdani. I'm a communications strategist. By and large, I started my journey in communications and marketing around 12 years ago,
Okay.
with first 6 years very heavily dedicated towards some big name brands or for profit as we call them, such as Google, Microsoft, LinkedIn, and Sephora being some of my big clients. And then 6 years ago, I moved to Canada, and I've had a very tumultuous journey about stumbling across to nonprofits, which is a very personal journey. And a nonprofit actually helped me survive through some of the toughest times after I moved here. And that's when I realized I owe it up a lot to my community and to nonprofits in specific. And that's why the last 6 years I've dedicated purely to work towards nonprofits or ASOs, which are specifically dedicated towards HIV and AIDS prevention for the LGBTQ 2SIA plus communities. So
Uh,
that's a little bit about me.
That's wonderful. I appreciate that. I think sometimes there's just certain individuals who social impact work calls to them personally, right? And
Yeah,
there's
absolutely.
really personal parts of that. So tell us about what's one of your favorite parts about working in the nonprofit space.
I think one of my favorite parts about working in nonprofits is, like you mentioned, all of us who work in the nonprofits, either we stumble upon it or we have a very personal journey of self-discovery. For
Yes.
me, I think I subscribe to both. And the best part about it is while I took a part of it to redefine my life, I realized very quickly how much more I had to give to make sure that others were able to get benefits out of it too. I
I
think
love
that's the best part about working in nonprofits. I think we are, I always say this jokingly, some of the best people are people who love food and people who work in nonprofits.
that.
If you really want to make a lifelong friend, or if you want to really vouch for someone's authenticity or longevity in terms of friendship and dedication, make sure that they have had a hint with nonprofits.
I love
You
that.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's the best part about nonprofits. Specifically when you are, it's an art of giving. It's an art of constant giving. And I always say this: we give and we give and we give, and somewhere in the process we forget the art of receiving as well.
Oh, hit the needle. Yeah, that's a total challenge I see
Yeah,
consistently
yeah,
in nonprofits. Receiving like thanks from the people that you're giving to, but also, finding a space to prioritize yourself in the work is an ongoing challenge. And so that's leads kind of perfectly into the next question is, in this work, the last 6 years, as you've moved from for profit into nonprofit, what do you see as some of the challenges unique to this sector and to this work?
the reason why I pivoted from profits to nonprofits is because I myself saw a gradient shift happening. By that, I mean nonprofits, we are very effective at legacy communications, which basically means we talk a lot about our legacies or about our mission and vision, but we vehemently or really horribly suffer at talking about what impact we are making. We are not very good storytellers. We are very good at raising funds or harping about the fact that we need funds. But in the process, we forget the art of storytelling.
Agreed.
Because for profits have the money and the manpower or the luxury of doing something which we call human-centric storytelling, they do it very effectively. They go above and beyond mere sales these days, at least in the last 5 years. But for profit, if you see, we haven't changed at all in terms of our communications. We are still very heavy handed on raising funds. We are very heavy handed about talking about social issues, but we do not talk about what ramifications or how, in the long run, we are making a real world impact because we are not human centric storytellers. We
Yeah,
are legacy storytellers.
I agree.
And Because we don't have profit or the backing of manpower and money, we feel that we don't have the wherewithal of doing human-centric storytelling. But with the advent of technology and with AI and all the lingos that millennials throw at us these days, we do have a lot to give and we don't need many resources.
Yeah.
So that is the tryst I feel nonprofits are at. And the sooner they realize the importance of human forward or human centric storytelling, the better will be the fundraising, the better will be the campaign management, and the more impact and following we will have, which will be long term following instead of just bouts of following.
It all kind of just ties together, right? And there's a psychology component that in the for-profit space is very well understood, why
Yeah,
people buy, that subtle marketing that kind of convinces people to buy
yeah,
that we don't even really know that is happening. It
yeah,
exists in nonprofit as well.
yeah,
It's still working on those same psychological levers that people
absolutely.
have for for-profit buying, but
Yeah.
the resources to understand the psychology or bringing psychology into storytelling absolutely is something I would similarly note that is a challenge in nonprofit.
Yeah, consumer behavior, which you aptly define. So, consumer behavior or psychographics of consumers is not very different from our endpoint fundraising or advocacy for campaign management for increasing volunteers.
Yeah,
Psychology still is at the helm of how you communicate and how you tug on someone's heartstrings, right? The only differentiator there being that's a service or a product versus we are, because we are nonprofits, we are not selling a product or a tangible. But like I said, since we are legacy, we are selling a mission or a vision. So at the
yeah,
end of the day, we are also selling. And once we realize that, the co-genesis of that, we realize that we are not very much different. We can definitely ape and emulate what for-profits have been doing for years.
absolutely, absolutely. I think that's super super interesting. And in this journey into nonprofit, how has peer support factored into your just journey as a nonprofiteer?
Um, like I said earlier, Tasha, as a nonprofit here, we give and we give and we give and we forget the art of receiving. It is those once in a lifetime or those really beautiful moments when we receive from our peers is when we realize that we are all together on a similar journey. It's just our vision and missions differ. That's all. That's literally the only difference between any non-profit here, no matter which vertical you are working in the nonprofit. We all, at the end of it, are servicing for the greater good. And the
Absolutely.
sooner we realize that, the stronger we are as a community of professionals. The reason why for-profit communications works so effectively is because industry peers have events or they network and they discuss about their strategy or what they're going through in terms of what's impacting their bottom line. Of course, we don't have a bottom line, but you know what our bottom line is? It's emotions, it's
Yeah,
sentiments. And the sooner we realize that at the precipice of all of our work are emotions and sentiments and deep empathy, the sooner we can do better as a joint community. And I think that is when some of my best work has come forward. It has been purely by discussing with people such as you or people from other nonprofit verticals. The mission and vision was very different than mine. But like I said, at the end of it, our precipice is pretty much the same. We
yeah,
rely very heavily on the principles of empathy. No nonprofit can really work without the principle of empathy if you think about it. Be it a really big nonprofit like WHO or a UN, through something like a grassroots nonprofit, empathy is at the precipice of every mission and vision. So, be it some of my most award winning campaigns like the Sparkling Eyes, which I did in South Asia, where we scanned 65 plus thousand students from marginalized community and emancipated them from early onset of blindness, or me organizing something like a queer cinema for Palestine. You know, all of those ideas came to me not out of the thin air, but it came out to me because I was talking to industry peers, understanding what was delaying their funding, understanding what were the hindrances that they were facing, or their clients or their volunteers or their communities were facing. Once I realized that is when I did background research, and that's when we developed those endpoints, which starts making the larger impact. And when we are all in it together is when it amplifies further.
Absolutely. I think there's so much room for collaboration in this industry and from learning from each other, right? And when you have small teams, maybe you're a marketer, like, I mean, we've talked about this, maybe you're a marketing team of one all by
Yeah.
yourself. And you can get in your head so much, right? If, and you kind of forget about the outside view and your audience, like, the clients you're looking to serve, who you're looking to participate, may not be the best person to go and ask for, like, what do you think of this? But you could ask an industry peer and, like, does this make sense? Does this follow through? If you saw this, what would you think? And they understand the space. They understand probably what you're trying to get across. And yeah, it's just so much more powerful when you have those opportunities to share and strategize together.
A nonprofit is not at all different than a SMB, right? Or a startup, literally.
Yeah.
The only difference being we are not as peers, we are not as fiercely competitive because we are not itching for the bottom line, which
Yeah.
is also the beauty of networking in the nonprofit space,
Yeah.
because all of our mission and visions are very varied. Sure, our communities might coincide or might have an overlap, but at the end of it, we are all doing good for the larger part of the community, which is why some of the best synergy with professionals happens in the nonprofits.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing to see when two or three nonprofiteers come together versus for-profit colleagues gather together because there's always a touch of competition in the for-profit space.
Yeah.
I never have observed us at nonprofit. It's literally like coming together of friends who are going through troubled waters every time.
Friends, how do you think the Nonprofit Hive and being a member has been supportive in your journey in nonprofit work?
All thanks to you, Tasha, and the Hive. I've said this for years. We needed something like this, because there are so many communities and then there are so many Slack groups and stuff for profiteers and networking for professionals in that space, but we don't have a defined platform for non-profiteers, which
Yeah.
rightfully so, I think the Hive has been very instrumental. From meeting people from not just North America, because I always say this, trust me when I say this, North America is a very, very small well, and we are all kind of in that small well. But the real nonprofit works happens in developing or underdeveloped countries where
Absolutely.
we cater to as well. And when you communicate with someone from those countries who are on ground, that is when people like you and I realize that, oh my God, here I am just strategizing, but I have a peer on ground in a country where it's actually making real world impact. And that was not possible without the Hive. You know,
It's
I'm
very cool.
I'm meeting people who work in very, very different sectors, servicing communities which I would have never thought about, be it minority or people of color communities in South Africa, for example. I met a gentleman from there. I met someone from up really north in Russia. So that was great as well. And not just through that, but when we network beyond the Hive as well, we know that we have had that really fruitful discussion at the Hive, and then we end up helping each other with our connections further.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's a fantastic platform, and all thanks to you. I think it was very much needed.
Thank you. Thank you. I love seeing these like connections coming off in different directions that I wouldn't have guessed about, or had somebody join the other day that when I heard how they found it, it was such a winding, path. And I mean, it's always, marketing is always interesting. I always find marketing interesting. This has been like a next level interesting marketing experiment
Yeah.
because I really didn't know how it would travel, but it's brought me so many wonderful relationships, including meeting someone like yourself who doesn't actually live very far away from me, but I never probably would have. It's ridiculous, but we never would have run into each other. And if people were wanting to reach out and get in touch with you, how would be the best way to do so?
Oh, for sure. Anyone who needs any help, with the nonprofits, I love doing pro bono work as well. I love working on projects or even for consultation or just to say hello. We all go through some bad days, some rough days, or you just want to share your win. I'll just be a call away. You can email me at yourstoryteller.co@gmail, or please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm Shahbaz Mamdani. As the name is spelled on the screen here, please do connect with me on LinkedIn and I'll be very, very happy to help you. I always say this to anyone in nonprofits: help me help you.
I love this.
So
You're so
anything that you need.
Thank you so much for your time today. And thanks for being such a fantastic member of the Hive.
Not at all. It's an absolute pleasure to connect with you, the Hive, and all of our peers. And we are all in this together. Let's do some awesome work and make real life impact.